AITA for breaking up when my partner's family defended his emotional affair. I, 29F, have been with my partner, Mark, 31M, for just over 6 years. We're not married, but we've lived together for 4, share finances, a lease, a dog, and until recently, I genuinely thought we were on the path to marriage. His family certainly treated it that way, calling me his future wife, joking about grandchildren, the whole thing. That's part of what makes this hurt so much. To anyone on the outside, Mark looks like the perfect partner. He's calm, rational, successful, not the yelling type. He prides himself on being logical, which I use to find grounding because I'm more emotional and expressive. Over time, though, logical started to feel like code for dismissive. Whenever I was upset, the response was always some variation of, "You're reading too much into it. That's not what I meant. You're being sensitive. Why do you always assume the worst?" I started to doubt myself a lot. I'd rehearse conversations in my head beforehand, triple check my tone, ask friends if I was being unreasonable. Mark would insist we had great communication, but somehow I was always the one apologizing at the end. Still, I loved him. I believed we were a team. About a year ago, Mark started a new job. That's when Emily entered the picture. At first, Emily was just a co-worker. Then she was the only one who understands how stressful this job is. Then she was texting him memes, then venting, then calling after work. Then on weekends, I noticed, but I didn't want to be that girlfriend. I trusted Mark. Or at least, I trusted the version of him I thought I knew. The first time I brought it up, I was careful. I said something like, "Hey, I've noticed you and Emily talk a lot. I'm not accusing you of anything, but it's starting to make me feel a little uncomfortable." He laughed, actually laughed. He said, "Wow, I didn't think you'd be the jealous type." I wasn't trying to be jealous. I was trying to be honest. He assured me there was nothing going on, that Emily was engaged, that I was overthinking it. He said I should be happy he had someone to decompress with so he wouldn't dump all his stress on me. That sentence stuck with me. It made me feel like I was failing at something I didn't even know was a test. Over the next few months, things got worse. Not between Mark and me directly. On the surface, everything was fine. But emotionally, he was elsewhere. He stopped coming to me first when something happened at work. He stopped sharing little things. If he had a bad day, he'd already talked it through by the time he got home. With Emily. Meanwhile, when I tried to talk about my day, he'd be distracted. On his phone. Nodding, but not really listening. I told myself I was imagining it. Then one night, Mark fell asleep on the couch with his phone unlocked. I wasn't snooping. A message popped up on the screen while I was grabbing a blanket. It was from Emily. "I hate that you're the only one who really gets me." I stood there staring at the phone for a long time before I picked it up. I know people have strong opinions about reading a partner's messages. I get it. But something in my gut broke open in that moment. The messages weren't sexual. No explicit flirting. No, "I love you." But they were intimate. They talked about fears, childhood stuff, doubts about the future. Things Mark hadn't shared with me in years. He called her his safe space. She told him she felt closer to him than to her own fiancé. One message from Mark said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." I felt like I couldn't breathe. The next morning, I confronted him. I didn't yell. I just said, "I read your messages with Emily, and I feel like you're having an emotional affair." He went cold. He said I violated his privacy, that I was twisting things, that emotional cheating isn't a real thing, that I was projecting my insecurities. When I asked why he never told me he felt closer to her than to me, he said, "That's not what I said. You're taking it out of context." I asked if he was willing to set boundaries with Emily. He sighed and said, "I can't just cut off someone who's been there for me because you're uncomfortable." That word again, uncomfortable. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next day, Mark told his family, not in a neutral way, not as we're having issues. He told them I was accusing him of cheating. He told them I read his private messages. He told them I was trying to control who he could talk to. I didn't even know this had happened until his mother called me. She said, "I'm very disappointed in you." She said relationships are about trust. That Mark has always been a good man. That I shouldn't throw away 6 years over my insecurities. His sister texted me saying I was being dramatic and that Emily sounded like a good friend. His father told Mark he shouldn't reward ultimatums. Suddenly, I wasn't just questioning my relationship. I was on trial. Every conversation with Mark after that felt impossible. It was no longer just him against me. It was him and his family against me. When I said I felt ganged up on, he said, I didn't ask them to take sides. But he didn't stop them either. When I said I needed him to prioritize me, he said, I won't be forced to choose. When I said his family's involvement was hurting me, he said, they're just being honest. After weeks of this, I told him I couldn't do it anymore. I said I needed him to choose. Either acknowledge that what he did crossed the line and set boundaries with Emily and with his family, or I was done. He told me I was making him choose between the people he loves. So I packed a bag. Now I'm staying with a friend. My phone is blowing up with messages from his family telling me I overreacted. And Mark says he never cheated and doesn't understand how things escalated so fast. I feel heartbroken, angry, and strangely calm all at once. So, AITA for breaking up when my partner's family defended his emotional affair. Update. I moved into my best friend Amanda's apartment the same night I packed my bag. Amanda, 30F, and I have been friends since college, the kind of friendship where we've seen each other at our worst. When I showed up at her door with red eyes and a duffel bag, she didn't ask questions. The first few days were strange. My body felt like it was still waiting for Mark, waiting to hear his keys at the door, waiting for his voice, waiting for the version of him that used to feel like home. At the same time, I felt lighter, like I could breathe without bracing myself for dismissal. Amanda gave me the guest room and told me to take as long as I needed. She stocked the fridge with my favorite snacks, made tea at night, and never once said, I told you so, even though she'd never been Mark's biggest fan. On the third night, I finally told her everything. Not the summarized version, the real one. I told her about Emily, about the messages, about how Mark always framed himself as calm and rational while I slowly unraveled, questioning my own reactions. About how his family turned on me the moment he told his version first. About how he never once said, I'm sorry I hurt you. Amanda listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat quietly for a moment and then said, You did the right thing by leaving. I started to cry. Like ugly cry. She handed me tissues and continued, calm but firm. If he can't even acknowledge that what he did hurt you, if he'd rather let his family gang up on you than take responsibility, then he is not worthy of you. Period. I told her I kept wondering if I should have tried harder. If I gave up too fast. If I really was making a big deal out of nothing. Amanda shook her head. No. What he did was an emotional affair. And instead of owning it, he weaponized his family to pressure you into silence. That's not love. That's control. That word, control, landed harder than I expected. The messages from Mark hadn't stopped. Neither had the ones from his family. His mom sent long paragraphs about forgiveness and commitment. His sister told me I was throwing away something good. Mark's dad messaged Mark, who then forwarded it to me, saying I was immature. Mark himself kept alternating between cold and pleading. One moment it was, I don't understand why you're doing this. The next, can we just talk like adults? Never. I'm sorry. Amanda noticed how tense I got every time my phone buzzed. You know, she said one evening, the way he's acting right now. That's not someone who's reflected. That's someone who's panicking about losing control of the narrative. I asked her what she meant. He didn't think you'd actually leave, she said. Now he's scrambling to pull you back without admitting fault. Because if he admits fault, the illusion cracks. What illusion? That he's the good guy who did nothing wrong. I didn't respond, but something clicked. About a week into staying with Amanda, she casually mentioned that her cousin Ryan worked near my office. I'd met Ryan once or twice at gatherings. Nice guy. Friendly, nothing remotely romantic. A few days later, after another round of messages from Mark asking if we could reset, Amanda looked at me and said, I have an idea. I raised an eyebrow. That sentence makes me nervous. She smiled. Trust me, she said. I just want to show you something. That weekend, Amanda suggested we go out. Coffee, bookstore, dinner. She invited Ryan along, saying he was free and wanted to catch up. I hesitated. Is this a setup? No, she said honestly. Just come. You need to get out of your head. So I went. We walked around the city, talked about work, laughed. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a problem that needed fixing. Ryan was kind but respectful, never crossed a line. At one point, we were standing outside a cafe waiting for Amanda, who had gone inside to grab drinks. When she came back out, she pulled out her phone. Selfie, she said. She held the phone up. Ryan and I were behind her, standing close, but not touching. Just normal. Friendly. She snapped the picture. I didn't think much of it until later that night, when she posted it on her social media story. Mark followed both of us. I didn't realize what she'd done until my phone started vibrating nonstop. Calls, messages, missed calls, Mark. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. Amanda glanced over and said calmly, "Don't pick up." I wasn't going to, I said, but my voice shook. "He's spiraling," she said. The messages kept coming. "Who is that guy? Are you seeing someone?" Wow, that didn't take long. I didn't respond. The next day, I finally picked up when he called. He tried to sound casual, but the panic bled through his voice. "Hey," he said too quickly. "I saw Amanda's post." I said nothing. "So, who was the guy with you?" I told him calmly, Amanda's cousin. There was a pause. "Oh," he said. Relief unmistakable. But it didn't last. He kept talking too fast. Asking questions he pretended weren't questions. Where did we go? How long had I known him? Was he just visiting? It was almost surreal, hearing jealousy in his voice after months of telling me I was overreacting. "You seem upset," I said. "I'm not," he replied instantly. "I was just curious." Curious. I asked him, "Why does it matter?" He hesitated. "It just feels fast." I laughed. "You mean like how fast you built emotional intimacy with someone else while living with me?" Silence. Then he changed tactics. "Look," he said, "we had a fight. Fights happen in relationships. We shouldn't throw everything away over one rough patch." I waited. "I'm not apologizing for something I didn't do," he added. "But I want you to come home. Not I'm sorry. Not I hurt you. Just come back." That's when it finally hit me. He didn't miss me. He missed the version of me that stayed quiet. "I'm not coming back," I said. He sighed, frustrated now. "You're being stubborn." I hung up. Amanda was sitting across from me, watching my face. "He hasn't changed," she said gently. "No," I whispered. "He hasn't." She leaned forward. "And now you see it clearly. He panics when he thinks he's losing you. But he still won't take responsibility. That's not love, that's entitlement." I nodded. She paused, then added, "I told you I had an idea before. That wasn't it." I looked up. "That was just the preview." She smiled. "He's been gaslighting you for years. He let his family humiliate you. He's still trying to pull you back without accountability. I think it's time you teach him a lesson." I swallowed. "What kind of lesson?" "One where he finally understands what it feels like to lose control of the story." I didn't answer right away. But for the first time since I left, I didn't feel confused. I felt steady. Update. The next day, Mark called again. His tone was the same as before. Panicked but still trying to play casual, like nothing had changed. "I think we need to talk," he said. I listened quietly. My heart was still pounding, but I had made my decision before picking up. "I'll come home," I said. "But I'm not coming back into the relationship." There was a long silence, then a nervous laugh. "What do you mean?" I explained. "The lease is ending in 2 months. I paid for it, so I'll be using the space. That's the only reason I'm coming back." I didn't tell him the truth. Not yet. The truth was simpler. I was coming back because I finally had a plan to make him feel exactly what he made me feel. Humiliation, confusion, frustration, and loss of control. When I arrived, Mark greeted me warmly, smiling as if everything was fixed. "See, we can go past this fight," he said. I looked at him, calm but firm. "No, Mark, I'm not here for the relationship. I'm here because the lease ends in 2 months and I paid for it, so I'll be using my space. Nothing more." He looked relieved, but relief quickly turned into subtle panic. He tried to coax me back into the relationship, hinting that maybe we could just see how it goes. I agreed, but my terms were clear. I would let him think he had me back, but I would not fully commit, and I would not forgive him for what he had done. The real revenge began quietly. It started when I found out that Mark was still in contact with Emily. My chest tightened. I had been patient, letting the illusion build, but now I was resolute. I asked for his phone one evening. When he handed it to me, I scrolled, screenshotting every conversation between him and Emily. The one that cut the deepest? Where Emily confessed that she felt closer to him than to her own fiancé. I sent that screenshot to my phone. My hand didn't shake. Then I began using Ryan. Slowly at first. Friendly check-ins, calls after work, casual texts. But soon, it mirrored exactly what Mark had done with Emily. Late night calls, venting about work, sharing fears and doubts, all plausibly platonic, of course. Mark noticed immediately. "Who's Ryan?" he asked one evening, panic laced in his voice. I smirked. "Don't overreact. You trust me, right?" I ignored him for hours afterward, focusing on talking to Ryan instead. Exactly as Mark had done with Emily, I dismissed Mark's concerns and subtly humiliated him, letting him stew in uncertainty. One day, I intentionally called Ryan in front of Mark. "You understand me way more than anyone," I said, my tone casual. Mark's jaw tightened, and I could see the jealousy flicker across his face. "Why do you even need to talk to him?" he asked. I laughed lightly. "Don't be dramatic, Mark. I just feel comfortable talking to him." It worked exactly as I intended. Mark began questioning me relentlessly, trying to reassert control, while I mirrored his old dismissive behavior. I shut down his concerns, mocked his jealousy, and let him experience the isolation and humiliation he had subjected me to. Except now, it was completely justified. When his family tried to intervene, I used the same tactics. Amanda and my friends even got involved, calling Mark to reprimand him for accusing me of emotional infidelity, just like his family had done to me. I watched as his confidence eroded. Every attempt to assert dominance in the relationship fell flat. He became visibly desperate. He started putting effort into the relationship, hinting that he would stop contacting Emily if I would stop talking to Ryan. I laughed quietly and hinted I didn't mind. "Talk to Emily if you want," I said. "I'm not jealous or insecure." Meanwhile, my connection with Ryan grew. Our conversations deepened beyond the playful, platonic front I maintained for Mark. One evening, I finally admitted to him softly, "I'm sorry for using you like this." He didn't mind. "It's okay. I knew what I was signing up for." I asked cautiously, "Would you maybe go out with me when my lease ends?" He agreed, and something inside me lifted. For the first time in months, I felt genuine hope. For the next 2 months, I executed my plan meticulously. Every call, every dismissal, every casual comparison to Ryan reminded Mark of the chaos he had put me through. Every effort he made to appease me was met with calculated disinterest. Finally, the lease ended. I had separated all our finances. I had moved my things. I had the dog. Mark hinted we could renew. I shook my head. "I don't feel the spark in this relationship anymore. I'm done." He was stunned. He pleaded, begged, tried to charm, but I declined flatly. I walked out of that apartment for the last time, and Mark and his family slowly realized I wasn't coming back. Meanwhile, Ryan and I grew closer. We started dating. It was everything I had hoped for: affection, respect, understanding, and shared laughter without fear of dismissal. For the final act of revenge, I tracked down Emily's fiancé through her social media. I sent him the screenshots of her conversations with Mark, highlighting the one where she admitted she felt closer to him than to her fiancé. The fallout was immediate. Emily's fiancé left her furious, blaming Mark entirely. Emily's friends and family called Mark and his family repeatedly, unloading their anger. I watched from a distance, quietly satisfied. And in my new relationship with Ryan, I finally experienced what it felt like to be truly cherished, respected, and loved. The opposite of what I endured with Mark and his family. I had taken back my life, my peace, and my joy. And I never looked back. Update. Mark reached out one last time. Hesitant, regretful, even begging, but I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I had lived the past months with clarity. No more gaslighting, no more guilt, no more humiliation. I was free. His family finally realized that their attempts to pressure me had failed. Calls stopped, messages stopped. They had to accept that I wasn't coming back. And for the first time, I felt an almost serene sense of victory, not from cruelty, but from reclaiming my life. Meanwhile, Ryan and I were inseparable. Unlike Mark, he never dismissed my feelings, never minimized my fears, and never made me question my worth. He was affectionate in ways I had always craved, holding my hand without needing a reason, listening when I needed to talk, supporting me without judgment. One evening, as we sat on my balcony watching the sunset, he took my hand and said, "I like that you're not afraid to stand up for yourself." I smiled, leaning into him. It feels good to finally be with someone who sees me, not just who they want me to be. He kissed my forehead and whispered, "I'm never going anywhere." For the first time in years, I felt truly safe, respected, and loved. The shadow of Mark's control was gone, replaced with warmth, trust, and the steady affection I had always deserved. I had walked away from toxicity, reclaimed my boundaries, and found a love that didn't just survive, it thrived. And for the first time in a long time, I was at peace.